So a very warm welcome to you, my dear students. It gives me a pleasure and a happiness you can see on my face. For the simple reason, right now I am standing in your school, in your classroom, where you would have been after the Diwali vacation. So much of joy and happiness comes, I can see the benches around. You can see the blackboard is already very ready, it's been colored. You can see here the smart board which is covered up so that when you are back, we can use this smart board. So we were all set for what called as for the second term, but as a matter of coincidence, that the government said that the students should not come to school, and we are here today, though I am in front of you right now through this online mode that is teaching you in the classroom. It gives me a different kind of experience altogether. Right now where I am facing the camera, in fact I would have been in your classroom and facing each one of you. We were all set up, we were all ready, with the requirements that was needed. But in this pandemic, COVID-19, let me tell you, my dear students, that you need to take precaution. The very first thing that you need to remember, my dear students, is wear mask, which is very, very important. Right now there is nobody in and around the room. So, I have removed my mask and I want to talk to you, and I want to, then the next thing is please carry, kind of a bottle which is cloth, you can put it on your body so that, it's called as disinfectant. You can see this. So just use it as a form of a spray, so that when you're traveling, you're coming from a crowd. The next is don't forget to use a sanitizer, my dear students, as and when possible. Please take 2 drops of sanitizer and see to it that, protect yourself. Maji kutum, maji jawabdari. My family is my responsibility. So each one of you need to take due care and protection, my dear students. As I'm going to begin today with the second term, let me once again wish you a very belated happy Diwali, and at the same time, happy Children's Day. We were supposed to have a lot of programs and competitions, when we were back in the school, but yet we had what is known acting, lantern making, and rangoli making competition. And I would like to congratulate 2 students from my class specially, that is Ankita Padi from 10th B, for getting the first prize in rangoli as well as in kandil making or lantern making, whereas the second prize goes to my friend Riya Mohiti. So congratulations. Why am I putting it on record? Because this will be a remembrance for you, my dear students, maybe after 10 years, 15 years, whenever you log on to YouTube and you can just listen to this. So it is giving me so much of happiness, my dear students, to stand before you and talk to you in your classroom. I'm choked up with emotions right now, and I didn't know, Sir Peter just walked from here. Ma'am Patricia is there, Sir Dilkar has come, Ma'am Shiva, everybody, most of the teachers are there today, and we are back to school. And it gives me that kind of happiness to be with you people. Before I actually begin my lecture, my dear students, I would like you to show your classroom where you might have been seated if we would have had a normal class rather not online. But let me tell you, my dear students, we also need to remember that we cannot miss the opportunity of studying. Please remember, only the building has changed, but the teachers are taking a lot of trouble and pain that is going into. So see to it that every lesson that is being prepared reaches to you. I hope, my friend, you take care of yourself, your family, and please, dear students, remember that education cannot stop. We need to go on with it. And I'm very sure that each one of you would be really working hard in order to see that how best you can give. I hope you all are honest and sincere. A humble request to all my dear students, those who have not paid the fees, please pay your fees. My dear students, with both my hands folded, it is very, very important that you need to realize that education cannot be kept, aside. We need to keep ourselves upgrading. We need to keep ourselves. We cannot stop. And remember one important thing, that the show must go on. So here I begin with a brand new topic of the second term in history. So once again, my dear students, a very warm welcome to each one of you. Wish you a belated happy Diwali, happy Children's Day, and I hope you had a gala time during this pandemic COVID-19. But please remember, stay home, stay safe. Today was the day when I would have been in your class interacting with you live. But as a matter of coincidence, the directors came from the department that we teachers as well as the students are not supposed to come to the school, and we need to continue with the online teaching. So I hope you are in your pink of health. Take care of yourself. माझे कुटुंब, माझी जबाबदारी. Take care of your family members. And let's begin with the second term of the academic year 2020-2021. Education cannot stop. So let the show go on. And here, your Sir Hassan teaching history begins with the second term. Now, before I begin with the topic, my dear students, let me give you a guideline as to what are we going to have it in the second term till and until we meet in class live. You remember in your first term, we completed with chapter number 1 to 7. So your entire unit test, that is, you had 7 chapters in history and 2 chapters in civics. Total in all, you had 9 chapters for your first term. Now, in the second term, my dear students, which we are beginning from today, I'm talking about my subject history. We already began from 23rd. In your second unit test, you are going to have your chapter number 8, 9 and 11. Your chapter number 10, Armed Revolutionary Movement, is not there for your exam. So you have 3 chapters in history and 2 chapters in civics for your second unit test. Hopefully the unit test will be in the month of January. So total in all, right in the beginning, in the very first lecture, I'm giving you the details, my dear student, that you have 5 chapters in all for your history and civics. Chapter number 8, chapter number 9 and chapter number 11 of history, and chapter number 3 and 4 of civics. I hope the concept is very clear. Your chapter number 10, that is Armed Revolutionary Movement, is not there for your exam. I hope it is clear, my dear student. Now let me go to the next topic. So again, your first term, chapter number 1 to 7, which we already completed successfully. Your second unit test, you'll have chapter number 8, 9 and 11. So 3 chapters in history you'll have. And in second term, that is in civics, for your second unit test, you'll have chapter number 3 and 4. So that is 2. So 3 plus 2, you'll have 5 chapters for your second unit test. But whereas for the entire second term, that is for the month of April, you'll have history total chapters 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 3 chapters here, 3 chapters here. So total in all, you'll have 6 chapters in history. In civics, second unit test, you'll have only 2 chapters, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6 for your second term. So total 6 chapters in history and 4 chapters in civics. That is 10 chapters you'll have for your second term exam, my dear students. So don't get frightened. There is a lot of time that we will cover, and I'm very sure that each one of you are watching the video. Let me tell you, my dear students, that you are already in standard 8 from half pant. Now you're wearing a full pant. And what you did in the first term was fine. It was a lighter shade of your life because we were uncertain, whether we'll be there in the class. But the entire term, you can say, I did not get a chance to meet you face to face. But please remember that second term, I'll make it a point to meet each one of you from all the 3 divisions personally. Why? The reason is very simple. Not because I just want to meet you, because I wanted to request you to please prepare a notebook of 100 pages. If you have already made a 200 pages notebook in the first term, you can continue in the same book writing your notes. Please remember, my dear student, writing of notes is no option. You need to write. Please develop the habit of writing. I'm sending you a printed note. That does not mean that you should not write. Humble request to each one of you. The day that we meet, believe in me, I will be the first person to check your history notebook. Whatsoever I would have completed till that date. But you need to have 100 pages notebook, and very important, it should all be written by you, not by your friends or by your parents. And very important that your notebook should also have an index. I'm getting the camera closer. I'm so sorry if you can see a slight shake. I hope it is clear, my dear students. So is it clear? You can see here, notebook of 100 pages, all notes to be written in book, and index is compulsory. So let me begin with the 8th chapter of history. A very beautiful chapter. In fact, the first part of the chapter, if you remember when I talked about Teen Ka Funda, about Gandhiji, I said that Gandhiji launched himself with the 3 satyagrahas. If you remember, he started the first, that is Champaranya in Bihar, the Kheda district of Gujarat, and the problem of Ahmedabad textile mill workers. If you remember, the entire period, or rather everything, can be studied in 3. I said that whenever we remember Gandhiji, Gandhiji is associated with 3 national movements. The very first we already discussed in the first term, that is the non-cooperation movement. Now in the second term, the 8th chapter of history is civil disobedience movement, which I am going to start immediately right now. So this was the second national movement of Mahatma Gandhi. And the third that we are going to discuss in the next chapter, that is the Quit India movement. So Teen Ka Funda. Is it very clear, my dear students? There are a lot of things that is associated with the number 3. Okay, and every time that it comes, I will remind you. So can you see here totally, my friend, is this concept clear to you? Should I begin with the topic? Civil disobedient movement. Civil is the rule. Dis and obedience. Disobedience. What is disobedience? A person not following the rule. Gandhiji first, if you remember, cancelled the non-cooperation movement because of the Chauri Chaura incident. 22 policemen and a police officer was burned alive. Where did this incident took place, sir? This incident took place in a place called as Chauri Chaura, which is in Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh. And if you remember, taking you back to the previous video, who is the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh? Yogi Adityanath ji. And which part of UP he belongs to? He represents the Gorakhpur constituency, my dear students. So Chauri Chaura, Gorakhpur, non-cooperation movement was suspended by Gandhiji. And if you remember, there were many people within the Congress. And again, we talked about the 3 phases of the Congress. 1885 to 1905 was the period of moderate politics, if you remember. 1905 to 1920 was period of the extremist politics. What we are discussing is the third. 1920 to 1947 was called as the period of Gandhian era. So let's not waste the time, my dear students. Begin with the chapter number 8. That's civil disobedience movement. Okay, so taking you to the journey of chapter number 8, civil disobedience movement. Again, I'm repeating it. What is disobedience? That means we are not going to follow the rules and the regulations bestowed upon the Indian people by the Britishers. After, you remember, the resolution of complete independence was passed at the Lahore session, Gandhiji was given the responsibility, or rather the leadership, in order to lead the country. The main objective of handing over the responsibility to Mahatma Gandhi was that the idea, his philosophy of satyagraha, that is non-violence, proved to be a very fruitful one. It was only because of the incident that took place at Chauri Chaura, Gandhiji withdrew, or it cancelled the non-cooperation movement. But what was the problem? The people of the country realized that if Gandhiji did not take up the responsibility or the leadership, it would be very difficult for them to survive against the Britishers. Because if you remember, the word that is used in history book, it was a very novel technique, N-O-V-E-L, a very new technique that was launched by what called as Mahatma Gandhi, where he in fact brought the people of the country together. And one of the major reasons as to why did Gandhiji decided to launch the civil disobedience movement, you need to remember, is because of the salt tax. Remember this, my dear student. There are many other reasons. There was proposal that was being put forth by Gandhiji to the Britishers, but the Britishers did not responded. And one such tax that was imposed on the people of India was the salt tax. Now let me tell you in a form of a story, my dear student. Whether you are rich or you are poor, you are a male or a female, the consumption of salt does not changes on the basis of the money in my pocket. Let's say I have 1 lakh rupees, I am a lakpati, so I will eat 1 kg of salt. I am poor, I cannot afford to buy, give me 1 rupee salt. It is not that way, my dear students. So the consumption of salt does not depend from person to person. In fact, it is a natural ingredient which is available in the nature. And we all know in science you might have studied how salt is being extracted from the sea. Now, though it was naturally available in nature, what did the Britishers did? They imposed a tax on it. This was not acceptable to Gandhiji. Now, if you know that even today, the salt, there is no tax being imposed. Now, what happened, my dear student? Gandhiji wanted to break this oppressive and unjust law of the British government, and he wanted to do it through peace. Now, for what did Gandhiji did for this? He started with a satyagraha. He began this satyagraha from an ashram by name Sabarmati. You need to remember this, my dear student. And this journey was from Sabarmati to a seashore which is called as Dandi. Now both these places, my dear students, are in Gujarat. Are you getting it? If you would have heard the famous song which made, it became very popular, that is Sabarmati ke Sant tune kar diya kamal. Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram. There is a song. You can listen to it if you just type it on the YouTube. You'll get to listen to it, my dear students. So Gandhiji raised his voice against the unjust law that was salt tax, and he decided to begin with the satyagraha from a place that is his ashram Sabarmati to Dandi. Now for this he decided a date that was on the 12th of March 1930, where he would travel 385 kilometers. Now please listen to this, my dear students. So what did Gandhiji decided? He decided that he will begin his journey on the 12th of March 1930 and travel how much? He would travel 385 kilometers along with 78 followers. Now how is he going to travel? He was going to travel on foot. So that through this, while he was traveling, he was making the people aware through his speeches. He appealed to the people about the unjust act or inhuman act that was being imposed on the people. Production of salt, now listen to this, was the monopoly of the Britishers. Now what is monopoly? That means nobody else can produce the salt. And because it was the monopoly and nobody else could produce, the salt tax was being imposed. And whose monopoly it was? It was of the monopoly of the Britishers. And Gandhiji did not accept this. And that is why he decided to break this unjust law, for which Gandhiji decided to wage a satyagraha, a novel technique of non-violence. How? Through a march. That is, he is going to start a journey on foot from Sabarmati to Dandi, which is in Gujarat. When on the 12th of March 1930, how many kilometers, sir? 385 kilometers. With how many followers? With 78 followers. Now, you all are aware, Mr. Vijay Rupani is the Chief Minister of Gujarat. In between, my friend, I'll keep on adding to your information. Are you getting it? I would definitely inform you whatever possible from my side. Now, you need to understand the story, my dear friends. When Gandhiji began his journey, what happened is on the 5th of April 1930, Gandhiji reached what called as Dandi. But on the next day, please remember this. When did he reach Dandi? He reached on 5th of April. On the 6th of April, 1930, Gandhiji picked up salt and he broke this salt act. Okay. Picking up the salt lying on the seashore of Dandi, this was an act of courage of Gandhi. Now, you will be surprised to know that Gandhiji began this salt satyagraha in Gujarat, that is Sabarmati to Dandi, but there were many people who adopted the same technique. When Gandhiji got arrested, I'm adding it to the information, it is there very much. Okay, so there was another salt satyagraha at a place by name Dharasana. Who was the leader of this Dharasana satyagraha? It was Sarojini Naidu. Sarojini Naidu began the same march at a place by name as Dharasana. You'll be surprised to know the places where there was no salt production. Now, as I mentioned, where is salt produced? Near the sea. So where there was no salt production, like for example, Jungle Satyagraha was done. Places where, people wanted to break the act, they came together. And in this line of your knowledge, I would like to add a name of another very important person whose name was Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. You need to remember this, my dear students. And this famous satyagraha is called as Peshawar Satyagraha. Please remember this. Now, Peshawar is today in Baluchistan. Okay. The first satyagraha that I discussed with you is the Dandi Satyagraha. Please remember this. The first satyagraha that I discussed right now, the salt tax satyagraha, was called as Dandi Satyagraha. The second satyagraha that I am discussing right now is the Peshawar Satyagraha. Now, in Peshawar, which is presently the part and Pakistan of Baluchistan, that is in Pakistan, there was a person whose name was Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. I'll repeat it again. His name was Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. He was called as Frontier Gandhi, Frontier, or Sarhad Gandhi. Like Gandhi, same technique, the technique that was used by Mahatma Gandhi in order to break what called as the salt tax, that is the novel technique. Again and again I'm reminding you, the philosophy of peace. He began this on the 23rd of April 1930. See, 6th April, follow the date sequence also. Now 23rd April, who started with this 1930 at Peshawar? Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. He had his own organization, and the name of this organization was called as Khudai Khidmatgar. Khudai, Khuda hyphen I hyphen Khidmat, Khid, Khidmat, Matgar. Now, what is the meaning, sir, of Khudai Khidmatgar? It's called as servants of God in English. So, who had the organization? Khudai Khidmatgar? Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. Where was he from, sir? He was from Peshawar. Sir, what did he do? He used the same philosophy or technique of novel technique of Gandhiji in order to lay down his protest against the Britishers. Sir, when did he started this? He began this on the 23rd of April. Now, what happened, my dear students? Now, when Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan was leading these people, again peaceful method, please remember that, there was a regiment. The name of this regiment was Garhwal Regiment. Garhwali, you would have heard about the people, who are from the mountain area, the Garhwal area. They are called as Garhwali. So the Garhwal regiment was there, and the head of this Garhwal regiment officer, his name was Chandra Singh Thakur. Please remember this name too. Chandra Singh Thakur. Now, who was he? He was an officer in the British Army. Please remember, though Indian, he was working for the British Army. And what happened is, he was asked to open fire on the people of Khudai Khidmatgar. And who was leading this people? It was led by Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. So when Chandra Singh Thakur was asked to open fire, remember this, jot it down, my dear student, he refused to open fire. And what did he say? Whom are you asking me to open fire on? The person whom you are asking me to open fire are my brothers. Why? Because he was an Indian, and whom was the firing to be done? It was to be done on the Indian people. And when he refused, what happened with it? Later on, for which he also got a severe punishment, by dear students. And there was protest all over the country. Let me tell you. But do you think the Britishers would have kept quiet? No. On the 4th of May, 1930, see the sequence, my dear student. On the 4th of May, 1930, Gandhiji was arrested. Are you with me, my dear students? So, follow the sequence till here. Should I proceed further? Just give me 30 seconds in order to erase this whiteboard. So now, do you think the people all over India would have kept quiet? 4th May, Gandhiji got arrested. On the 6th of May, at a place by name as Solapur in Maharashtra. Now, Solapur is a place, my friend, if you now winter season, you would be taking the bed sheet at home. See to it, Solapur is famous for the production of bed sheets. Chadar आपण मराठी त्याला म्हणतो. Now, what happened exactly after a day, that is on the 6th of May, 1930. See, April 6th, Gandhiji broke the SALT Act. 4th May arrested. 6th May there was a Solapur Satyagraha. Remember the month. Within a month, SALT Satyagraha, 6th April, Solapur Satyagraha, 6th May. Now what happened is, the district collector gave orders of firing on the procession. Now there were many volunteers, like Shankar Shivadare. He died in the firing. And what happened because of which, as a retaliation, as an anger, as a frustration, what do the people did? They started attacking the police station, railway station, court, municipal buildings, all was attacked. And immediately the government declared martial law. Now what is martial law? In order to suppress the agitation so that nobody comes out, and whosoever would come out, what would be done? They would be arrested and they would be sent to the jail. So there were people who were actually leading what called as this Satyagraha. It included people like Malappa Dhanashetty, Sri Krishna Sarada, Kurban Hussain and Jagannath Shinde. And you'll be surprised to know, my dear student, that these people were hanged to death. And why they were hanged to death? Because they protested against the Britishers. So either it was by sending them into the jail, either it was putting them to gallows, that is in the jail, or either hang them to death. Now all these reasons, as I said, that it did not suppress what called as the revolt. Now all these reasons did not suppress, as I said. Now what happened is, as I mentioned, Sarojini Naidu led what called as the people of Dharasena. She bared what called as silently tolerated the blows of the lathi. There was battalion of people, 20-30 people would go. They would be attacked by the British officers or by the British army. They would come back, their medical treatment was done. The 2nd battalion would go. They would be injured. By the time they would come for medical facility, the 3rd batch would go. So the batch of Satyagrahis came forward to replace them. कितना मारोगे? कितनी ताकत है तुम में मारने की? How much can you, torture us? Let's see. So such kind of feeling. And as I said, what technique? What novel technique? The technique of Satyagraha. That means even if you are attacked, even if you are beaten, you will not respond back. Why did the second movement of Gandhiji is remembered in the history of our country, my dear student? It is because of this reason, that by this time people understood the technique of Mahatma Gandhi. Are you getting it? In Maharashtra, like for example, there were many places, where there was no leadership, but yet there was Salt Satyagraha. It took place at Vadala. If you ever get a chance to go near that license, when you complete the age of 18, IMEX Theatre, there was a place called as Malvan and Shiroda. In all these places, and the places where there was no salt pan, the forest law or jungle satyagrahas were broken. Places like Bilashi, Sangamner, Kalwan, Chirner and Pusad, all these places in Maharashtra. So you can see that the response, the cooperation of the people was to be seen overall, or rather there were thousands of satyagrahis who took part in the large number. And here you cannot forget a very important person whose name was Babu Genu, my dear students. Babu Genu was an ordinary person. You'll be surprised to know, when a truck loaded with the foreign goods was being brought to Mumbai, he laid down himself before the truck and he said that if this truck needs to pass, if needs to enter, it has to pass through my body. And you'll be surprised, shocked. The Britishers, as I said that, what did they did? They crushed Babu Genu under the truck. But what happened? This man, though laid down his life, though he was being threatened, what happened? But he did not give up his demand. And what happened because of it? There was agitation now, not only in Vad province, but throughout the country. Babu Genu gained martyrdom. What he became? He became Shaheed. And that is why this man, that is Babu Genu, will be remembered in the history of every class, every textbook, and especially in the history of Maharashtra, that without any political support, without any kind of fear, he laid down himself in front of the truck. And imagine the cruelty of the East India Company or the Britishers by this time. What did they did? They crushed him under the truck. And what happened? Babu Genu finally lost his life. Now, what is very, very important, you need to realize, my dear student, that though the civil disobedience movement gained momentum throughout the country, there were many parts of the country which was yet untouched. Now, when I say untouched, that means people were participating, but it was not that in large number. Though they were realizing that their enemy was common, but yet they did not take part the way they should have participated. Otherwise, the second movement itself would have made the East India Company, or rather the Britishers, to run away from our country. But Gandhiji was arrested, he was put behind the bars, but the Britishers knew that at this time that they needed the cooperation of the Indian people. Now, for what they needed cooperation, what happened after it, who was the Prime Minister that time of Britain, all that I will discuss with you, my dear students. But first, let me put you in a very small gist in a form of a story which you need to understand. Now, Gandhiji was in jail. They wanted that the Indian people should be suppressed. It was also the time when they needed the support of the Indian people. They knew that if they are not going to, please the people of India, it will be difficult for them to administer India even for a day. So finally, what did they decided? That they would have a round table conference, which in short called as RTC. Now, please remember, again, Teen Ka Funda, my dear students, RTC. What is the full form? Round Table Conference. And how many RTC took place? 3 roundtable conference took place. 3. Teen Ka Funda. Now, at that time, the Prime Minister of Britain was, remember this name, and I'm very sure you remember it very easily, because his name was Ramsay MacDonald. Now, please remember that this is not that McDonald when you go to have your pizza, burger and cheese. But his name was Ramsay MacDonald. He was the Prime Minister of England that time. So he decided that what he will do, he will allow the Indian people to take part in the roundtable conference, which was organized in England. So he invited the representatives of India in order to have a discussion. Now, why is a roundtable? Why not a square? Why not a triangle? Because in a roundtable conference, if you have observed that everybody has the equal opportunity. But if it is a square, the head of the family would sit and all others would sit in front of him. But in a roundtable conference, everybody gets an equal opportunity. That is why specifically I am mentioning it here. It was a roundtable conference. Who called on this roundtable conference? It was called on by the Prime Minister of England, whose name was Ramsay MacDonald. Sir, how many roundtables were called on? There were 3 roundtable conferences that were being called up. And this 3 roundtable conference, all of them, my dear student, was a big failure. Now, why, how, reason behind the failure, all that I will discuss with you. Now, when the movement was to start, before that, let me tell you that what was the speciality of this movement? That the movement was not now restricted to what called as, urban areas. Even it reached to the rural areas. Okay. And this became, this movement became a nationwide, you'll find it in your textbook. This movement became very famous. Women also took part in the civil disobedience movement. In short form, I call it as CDM. Now, in order for you to remember, my dear student, I'm just writing it down here. NCM, non-cooperation movement, CDM, that is civil disobedience movement, and QIM, that is Quit India movement. We finished in the first term NCM. Now we are doing CDM, and in the next chapter we'll do QIM. So the women also took part in the large number. Ladies like Kasturba Gandhi, Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay, Avantika Bai Gokhale, Lilavati Munshi, Ansaben Mehta, they all led the Satyagraha. And this Satyagraha was based on total non-violence. The British tried its best to suppress the movement, but the people protested unarmed. And as I mentioned, if you remember, that this Indian people by this time had become fearless. Kitna maroge? Maro. Chalo, how much you want to be? Sometimes when you, it happens, na? When daddy or mom, sorry, don't say this in front of your mom, but sometimes it happens when mommy goes to you, Mara, kitty mara, Mara. So people now became fearless. Okay, you need to remember. And the inspiration of Babu Genu set an example for the people of the country. And why the roundtable conference, sir? There were 3 roundtable conferences which you need to remember: 1930, 1931, and 1932. See, all 3 ka fund again. How many roundtable conference? 3. Who organized this roundtable conference? Ramsay MacDonald. Who was he? He was the Prime Minister of England. So which year? 1930 to 1932. Now we'll specifically see as to why did this roundtable conference fail. In the first roundtable conference, Ramsay MacDonald was the chairman of the conference, and he invited the people of India. But remember, who did not participate in this? It was Mahatma Gandhi who did not participate in the first roundtable conference. So then who participated? Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru, Barrister Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and there was a discussion which went on the various topics regarding the government, or rather the responsible government at the central level, establishment of what called as the state government. But it did not prove to be a fruitful one. No result they could come to, because the man, the hero of the show, was in jail. And finally, to tell you, my dear friends, that the Indian National Conference, or Indian National Congress, sorry, rather did not participate in it. And who was the representative, the head of the Indian National Congress? Please remember this. I told you, 1920 to 1947, it was called as the period of Gandhian era. So Gandhiji was the leader of the Indian National Congress, and not a single representative from the major party, which was at that time very, very popular. And because of it, they could not come to any conclusion. They could not come to any fixed outcome as to what needs to be done, how it needs to be done. And that is why you need to understand FRTC, First Roundtable Conference, was a big, big failure. Is it clear to you, my dear students? So 3 roundtable conferences took place, but the tragedy of it, that the first roundtable conference, Mahatma Gandhi did not participate. Rather, Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, Tej Bahadur Sapru, Barrister Muhammad Ali Jinnah, though they participated, but they represented their community. They represented, whereas Mahatma Gandhi was the father of the nation by this time. He had become a national hero. He was called as one-man army. Are you with me, my dear student? Why? Because of the noble technique. And let me tell you, my dear student, that the people who adore, the people who admire, the people who do research and study, they do it on Mahatma Gandhi, because he was a very different kind of man, and that is why he's being referred to as father of India, or father of the nation. Are you with me, my dear student? Should I now begin the second roundtable conference, called as SRTC, Second Round Table Conference. Now in the second round table conference, it was decided that Mahatma Gandhi would be released, and he would be allowed to take part, and he can represent his views and opinion in the second round table conference. Now in the second round table conference, Gandhiji did go to take part. Please remember. Now who was the one who took part? If at all there is a question, GK question I'm giving you, that who participated in all the 3 roundtable conferences, please remember, in all the 3 roundtable conferences, it was attended by Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. Who did not attend the first one? It was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, or better known as Mahatma Gandhi. Did not participate in the first roundtable conference, but for the second roundtable conference, he was being released from the jail on the condition that he will not only take part in the second roundtable conference, but accept at least the proposal of the Britishers. But when Mahatma Gandhi participated in the second roundtable conference, he did not accept the proposal of what called as the Britishers, and because of which the second roundtable conference also was a big failure. So first roundtable conference failed, the second roundtable conference failed. Why? Because without the cooperation of Mahatma Gandhi, the meeting or the roundtable conference was meaningless. Please remember this word, my dear student. What was the meeting or the roundtable conference? Without Mahatma Gandhi's presence or without Mahatma Gandhi's intervention, the meeting was baseless, meaningless. Now let us have a look at the second important thing in your textbook, which talks about Gandhi-Ivan Pact. Okay? Karar, pact is Karar. Now, at this time, with the hope and expectation that Gandhiji would take part, the Prime Minister asked, I'm talking about the second roundtable conference, he asked that let Mahatma Gandhi be released, and for which Viceroy Ivan went personally in order to assure that they are going to propose a constitution and a responsible government would be added. And a pact was signed between Gandhi, that is Mahatma Gandhi, and Sir Ivan. And that is why this pact can be known as Gandhi-Ivan Pact. Now what happened, my dear student, you need to understand that though this pact was signed, Gandhiji was released from the jail, he did take part in the second roundtable conference, but yet the second roundtable conference also was a failure. Is it clear to you, my dear students? Now let me take you to the third RT. I'm going slow, my dear students. Maybe I'm taking time, but I want you to understand, my dear students. Now what happened, as I mentioned, that the withdrawal of the movement was important. Now Gandhiji was asked to withdraw what called as the civil disobedience movement, and he agreed upon that. But when he returned back and he did not accepted the proposal, why? Because in the second roundtable conference, various castes, communities, political parties, as well as the princely states were invited. And the biggest game that the Britishers played was the government put forth the issues of minorities. These people who are in minority needs to be taken into consideration. And what happened? They were not in, there were differences regarding the issues and also regarding the federal constitution. Gandhiji, though tried, his best opinion, but everything proved to be unsuccessful. And what happened finally? Gandhiji had to return back to India disappointed. Now why he was disappointed? Because though he was being released from the jail, though he withdrew what called as the CDM, the Civil Disobedience Movement, but yet he went to London, England, and yet the second roundtable conference was a big failure. And finally, do you think the East India Company, the Britishers would have kept quiet when Mahatma Gandhi returned back to India and there was no fruitful result? Again they arrested Mahatma Gandhi and again they put him back in the jail. Try to understand, my dear students. And the biggest game that they played was they sowed the seed of communal. Now what is communal award, which I would like to discuss with you, my dear students. Okay, let me explain you what is communal award. Communal award is, whereby the people of that community will decide as to how many people can take part in the election. So they sowed, or rather they divided the people of country. And what happened when Mahatma Gandhi was sent to jail in order to represent the problem of the Dalits in the roundtable conference? It was Bhimrao or Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Why he is the hero of the Dalit people? Why every Dalit person of this country, not only in India, my dear student, but abroad, why do the hero worship him? Because it was this man who liberated the Dalit people. It was this man who brought about an awakening among the masses, that is the Dalit people. And he demanded a subtle electorate. When Mahatma Gandhi was once again arrested and he was put in the jail in a place called as Pune. It was, and what was the name of the jail in Pune? The name of the jail was Yerwada. This is one of the biggest jail, and your famous actor Sanjay Dutt was also put in the same jail where Mahatma Gandhi was there. So don't write in the paper, my dear student. This is only for you, extra information. Okay. Yerwada jail was the place. Where is Yerwada jail? It is in Pune. Who went to meet Mahatma Gandhi in the jail? It was Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. He went personally to meet him. And what demand did he put forth? that rather than having a separate electorate, just increase the number of seats of the Dalit people in the parliament. And this proposal was accepted by Gandhiji. And that is why the Pune Pact, which was signed between Dr. Ambedkar and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, proved to be a fruitful one, or rather it proved to be a useful one, because the proposal was accepted by both. So you can see, my dear student, that first roundtable conference failed, the second roundtable conference failed, and when the third roundtable conference was called upon by Ramsay MacDonald, Indian National Congress did not participate in it. Okay, so please be very clear that Mahatma Gandhi only attended the second roundtable conference, for which he was being released from the jail. Gandhi, when pact was signed, he went to England, participated in it, but was not utilized, or it was not a fruitful one. After which, when he returned back to India, he was again arrested and he was sent to jail. When Gandhiji was in jail, Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar went to meet him in the jail. A pact was signed, a qarar was signed between Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar, which came to be known as Pune Pact or Pune Pact, where in which jail he was? He was in Yerwada jail, which is in Pune. So both the roundtable conferences failed, but one thing that Gandhiji and Ambedkar agreed upon, that they would not have a separate electorate for the Dalit, but rather the reserved, or rather the seat would be more reserved for the Dalit people. And finally, what happened, my dear student, that when the third round conference also failed, because Indian National Congress did not take part in it, it did not utilize, it did not become a fruitful one. What happened is, the second round table and the third round table, all the roundtable conferences, TRTC, third roundtable conference, all the roundtable conferences failed. But what happened? Gandhiji did not stop, as he had promised them in the second roundtable conference, that he had stopped, not totally closed down. He has stopped what called as the civil disobedience movement. He once again began with the civil disobedience movement. Again, the inhuman oppressive method was used by the Britishers. The Indian National Congress and its associated were declared illegals. Now restrictions were imposed on the newspaper, on the literature, and finally it was in the year 1934 that Gandhiji withdrew the movement, and the historic phase of the civil disobedience movement came to an end. But that was not the end of all the national movements, my friend. Gandhiji was waiting for an opportunity to start with the last phase of the freedom struggle, which we will do it in the chapter number 9, that is called as the Quit India movement. It is also called as August Revolution. It is also called as the last phase of the freedom struggle. It is also called as a nail in the coffin of the Britishers, because it was this movement that gave a jerk, or rather this movement brought down the Union Jack flag, the British flag, and we hoisted the tricolor flag all over the country. All this, my dear students, we'll discuss in the next chapter, that is your chapter number 9. I hope, my dear students, you have followed what I have tried my best to explain you. I hope that your concept is clear. If you have any doubt, my dear students, I'm so impressed with some of the students of Standard 8 who call me up and they clarify their doubt. It gives me immense pleasure. Are you getting it, my dear student? When you are paying the fees, it's your right to clarify your doubts. Though, my dear students, we are on online mode, remember that yet your teacher is there for you at any time of the day. Don't feel shy. Have courage. Cross-verify. Ask questions. Clear your doubts. I hope, my dear students, and I do be in class and I do take a feedback from you, whether you're enjoying my lessons or not. Please don't forget, my dear students, to like, subscribe, and please post your comments, because the comments gives me an energy. It boosts me up, to prepare the best lesson that I can do the next time. So feel free. Any doubts, you are most welcome. Missing you, each one of you from Standard 8, the scenario would have been different. Just a small reminder once again to you, my dear students. Read, review and recap. Again, Teen Ka Funda. And please don't forget to complete this lesson with the objectives and question answers, which I will surely send you within a short span of time. This time it will not be like the first term, but as I said that I will keep to my words, you need to keep your promise that you're going to write down the notes, you're going to underline the fill in the blanks answer with a pencil, you're going to write it neatly, correctly and clearly, you're going to write down your index page, write your name, cover your book and see to it that maintain it, so that whenever we meet next time in live in classroom, you're in a better position. Sir, here is my notebook and it is ready, and I know you by your name, but I'm so sorry that I have not met you personally, but I'm very sure the day is not far ahead and we will definitely meet in class face to face. Till then, this is Sir Hassan signing off for today. Hope to meet you in the next chapter, chapter number 9. All the best. Thank you so much. God bless each one of you.